Welcome to the Better Outcomes podcast, where we discuss all things leadership, sales, and communication in Australian business. At Better Outcomes Training, we provide world-class training solutions for businesses who want to arm their teams with cutting-edge skills to lead better, sell better, and enjoy more success, purpose, and profit from the work they do. For a full breakdown of all the courses we offer, visit www.better-outcomes.com.au. There's also a link in the description. Now, on to today's podcast. Enjoy.
Don't do it this week. Don't wind me off the end. Welcome, everyone. We're back. Episode, geez, it must be in the high 30s by now, Paulie. We're getting good at this. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I think we're up to number 38, mate. Who would have thought this would happen, eh?
Wow. What have we got left? There's like 960 something to go before we hit the big time, bud.
Yeah, before that Spotify sponsorship, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How's your week been, bud?
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Fantastic. We'll get into that. I got a fair few things that interesting lessons that came from this week. But what about yourself? What you been up to?
Busy week, busy at work, and busy learning a lot of stuff. It's my mind is curious again, flat out curious about a few topics, and it kind of annoys me that the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know a lot.
Absolutely.
And it gets disheartening some days. You think, oh my gosh, why didn't I know about this earlier? So learning stuff about longevity and business stuff, and always sales, some a lot of behavioral work at the moment, a little bit of human psychology and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just opening doors in my brain that like untapped areas, and it just makes you appreciate how much fun learning is, but how much there is to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that what you've identified there is something that it's an antidote to the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I think I mentioned this morning. But the Dunning-Kruger effect, largely for anybody listening, is when people who are largely uninitiated in a particular area overestimate how easy these things are. Yeah. So you think about the topics that you're covering off there, and it's like people who've never done it before think, oh, that's easy, I could easily do it. It's like, go out and try.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when you start realizing.
Go out and try, and then sometimes you get into a subject and you end up listening to an expert on the topic, and they're talking about that they've mastered the 80 or 90% of that topic, and they're talking the 1%ers, and it's just so far out of your league. You've got to then wind it back to be able to understand the basic stuff, to be able to push a bit further. And so there's a lot to learning. There's a lot to unpacking. You've got to make sure you get it right too. Otherwise, you can get out of your depth pretty quickly sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think actually Socrates was once quoted as saying that when he died, he said he knew he was a wise man because he realized how little he actually knew about how many things, which is completely opposite to the other side, that Dunning-Kruger effect, where the uninitiated largely think that they know it all. Until you got to put it down, you got to get to doing it and get a result from it. It's not easy, man. It really isn't. The devil's in the detail, I think.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I've got Socrates beaten on that because I know a lot less than he did. So, anyway, I digress. Paul, we've got a few good topics this week that you're going to hit us with that have popped up. So we'll jump straight in. The first one's about hot streaks, which really interests me. I really want to talk about this because this is one of the things I'm very curious about and into at the moment. So talk to us about this one. This popped up this week for you, yeah?
Beautiful, yeah. So, cuz the aspect was around hot streaks was a debate that I've had a few times, and I've had it recently again this week with some salespeople that I was talking with, talking about these hot streaks that we can get onto. Now, a hot streak, as I'm sure everybody knows, as I'm sure a lot of people know, is when you literally are in a volume selling position and you're just closing deal after deal after deal after deal. And it's a nice place to be. It's when selling becomes absolutely awesome, and it's like you're just that hot streak. It's almost like you got that the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold.
Yep, gotcha.
And the big thing is that people, and this was what the debate was. It was like, is that where do those hot streaks come from? Is it just perfect timing? Like those clients were just all in the right, ready to buy. There might be an aspect of that where you could debate that it was luck, maybe, where everything just perfectly aligned and you hit 10 deals in a row. Or, because I don't believe that luck is a strategy necessarily.
No.
Is it that you get into a different frame of mind physically, mentally, and emotionally? And I have to believe that it's the second one. Because when we get to that physical, mental, and emotionally aligned with what we're talking about, that's when I believe people start communicating at a much more positive level. And I think that action absolutely gets more people saying yes to you. You know, we've all had that feeling where we feel like we've been fully aligned with this. I think a lot of the time our focus is, on how can you've got that almost that good energy because it's that focus of how can I add more value to this person I'm talking to. And the level of confidence that we have when we're on a hot streak, it reduces the perceived risk very often that a client would have because effectively, that they can kind of pick up on how aligned we are, particularly when we do a good approach there. So very often, I have to believe, of course, because then I can construct it, and maybe people call me biased for that. But I think that very often our physical, mental, and emotional state that we're in will largely dictate whether the client will buy or not buy. Okay, and I think that I have to believe that if I can control my state, then I'm in a much better position to be able to communicate well, get a good outcome, and hopefully that just success breeds success. We get onto that positive roller coaster. That was the conversation I had. One of the people I was talking to, she said to me, "No, that other people are just lucky." It's like we have to be able to change that thought process because if it's just luck, that means that we have no control over it. If I believe I have control over it, then I'm going to be proactive in trying to do the best thing there as well. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
I think that it is possible to manufacture hot streaks or to keep them going.
Yeah.
And I guess when I'm thinking about a hot streak, it would be, I'm not sure if I'd include it that I'm hitting every single deal in a row. Maybe I'm just in such a good position because I've turned up consistently. I've worked on my prep work. I'm in a good good state of mind, good frame of mind, positive, ready to go. See the value that I bring to the table and see the value that I can give to the customer. If you turn up in that state every single time, you're giving yourself the best possible chance. Mm-hmm. So I very much think that can be manufactured. Yeah, you can put yourself and give yourself the best possible chance. Literally like flipping a switch from when you walk out the door, you get in the car, when you show up at work. Yeah. You're that person and you're ready to go. You can leave the other bloke behind, he's got his problems and whatever, but and you're into it at work. So I believe that a hot streak, and when you're on a hot streak, regardless of what it is, not only are you really seeing the wins and really getting stuck into it, but the little losses that you might have on the way or the missed ones, you don't really notice. You kind of skate right over top because you're in such a good frame of mind. You understand that you're going to get your nose. Not everything's going to be a win. Yeah. And keep going. So definite frame of mind. And I think it can be manufactured. Yeah, exactly what you're saying.
I know there's also a lot of speakers that will use NLP and anchoring and stuff like that to change their state before they go on.
Yeah.
Game
face. Yeah. Put the game face on.
Game face on. Yeah. And I think there's a fair amount to do with that. I suppose if you look at sport as well, people have their what they do, and
perfect example is you turning up to jiu-jitsu, Britney Spears blaring on the radio at the front.
That's the way now, mate. It was Taylor Swift. It wasn't Britney Spears.
Sorry, dude. Sorry, I'm not up to it. Yeah, I haven't seen your playlist for a little bit, but game face. You're right. Game face, state of mind. I know you've got a bit of prep work that you do before you get up for and speak to people, and I have a little bit as well. You got to kind of pump yourself up. So I think that all plays a part, mate. I really do.
Yeah, and it's good news. If we believe that, then it's good news because we can be proactive to managing our state more, which is awesome.
Exactly right. Good habits, being proactive and figuring out what works best for you. Yeah, and getting yourself into that position where you're ready to go. Not being able to be upset if you don't have your morning routine and do your your perfect day, you know, have a bit of room for leeway as well. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm with you on that one, bud.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
Really, love it. Love it. All right, what are we on to next? Problems with senior people.
Yes, so it was very interesting. There was 2 days this week where I worked with people learning to present. Okay, people learning to present, and presenting. We all know the story. We've told the story plenty of times that it's one of the biggest fears that people can face. We all know the joke around that as well. But I love. There was a 2 day workshop that I ran, and I absolutely love these training workshops because, especially around presenting, because you actually get to see results in a very short amount of time. And by that I mean, you know, I've made it public that obviously I love sales training because people can see the return on investment in days, weeks, and months after the training. And with presenting, it's probably the only other course I train where you can see almost instantaneous changes in people. Yep. When I say instantaneous changes, I'm not necessarily talking about in the second, but certainly over the 24 hours from their first presentation to the last presentation, or 48 hours, how they make these shifts. So anytime I run the 2 day trainings, everybody presents 3 times, and literally seeing people coming in and presenting or being terrified of presenting, literally terrified of presenting, and then, you know, getting them to the end of it and actually see speaking engagements as opportunities rather than obligations. It's beautiful to see. It's absolutely beautiful to see. But one of the challenges was, and this is going to go off piste a little bit, I'm going to go quite deep here, and I don't even know if I've got the right terminology because I haven't thought it out a hell of a lot, but it was one of the challenges that one of the team was facing. And I was thinking on my feet, and very often if I'm dealing with this problem, I'm talking about it, I'm walking, I'm getting back and forth, I actually get further learning there myself as well. And he said to me that he was a youngish guy, but technically very, very good. And when, you know, he was relatively young, but technically brilliant, he was to what his boss said to him was that you're being thrown to the wolves, and what he meant by that was you're going out to present to the board, and you are still relatively young in the world. So effectively, his skill sets were up here. His experiences were, you know, he was still new in the game, so to speak, but he had to go and present to people who were very senior, very experienced. And one of the challenges he was dealing with on that was that when he's presenting information, there are times when the senior board members could jump in and get very detail orientated. Not that they're being bad or anything like that. It's just, it happens. Yep. Very detailed orientated with regards to discussing it. And what he was finding was he'd get hit with these detailed questions, comments, observations that rocked him a little bit. And you can understand how this happens. So what we did was I wanted to show him how to be able to maintain control of that presentation, even when somebody with legitimate authority, brilliant subject matter expertise, jumps in, and strong character as well, jumps in and can often, not intentionally, but often derail the presentation from the presenter's point of view. So covered off 2 techniques. The first one was, firstly, a strong pre-frame. You know, everybody's heard us talk about pre-frames before, but setting the conditions for the presentation, you know, something like, please, going into a little bit more detail, but getting people to hold questions till the end, with the awareness cost associated with staying the same, potential reward, making change. So that was the first approach, just to create awareness, because I think very often you get people who present who are excited, people who want to contribute, they're excited to do it, they're not always that self-aware of the impact of what they're doing. So the pre-frame causes a degree of awareness. That's the first thing. And then a cost associated with staying the same, or a potential reward for making a change. The second thing we went into, he said to me, Paul, that's fine. I can absolutely do that, and I think it'll help. But what actually happens, and I think he had quite an emotionally jarring experience with this. He goes, what happens when these senior people with brilliant minds ask me questions that I don't have the answers to? So I said to him as well, you've got to realize that a lot of the time, I think we put pressure on ourselves to know all the answers, but no one else puts the pressure on us to do that. Everybody knows that nobody's got the answers to everything. So the pre-frame may cover that off, but then he said, no, I need something further. What's going to happen? How do I take control back of the presentation? And here was where I went with this. One of the challenges, I'm going to say a little bit of context here. One of the challenges I often see, particularly with very technically minded people when they present, is they go up and present. We all know that, especially if you're not experienced with it, or even if you are experienced with it, presenting can be quite nerve-wracking. So very often what happens is technical people very often can feel insecure, and therefore, and they want to be seen to know what they're talking about. So what they start doing is they go back to the area of comfort, which is very technical language. I hope this is making sense to everybody on here. They can go back to very technical language, because if human beings, we feel uncomfortable, we want to look for comfort. What is comfort? Technical terminology, technical. And the problem with that is they might feel a little bit more comfortable, but you start losing your target audience to a much higher degree. And we spend a lot of time working on this. But very often, I believe, how you feel when you're presenting is going to dictate whether other people are going to take the speaking, the control of the presentation from you, or they're going to leave it with you. So what my suggestion is when he's presenting, if he gets derailed like that, to have maybe 30 seconds of going back to his very technical language where he looks very, very strong, very, very short term, to actually talk about his particular area of expertise. Because we all know there's particular topics that when you get into that, you actually control the frame of that presentation a whole lot more. So he feels it's going a little, he's done the pre-frame, he feels it's going a little bit sort of off piece there. So effectively, he wants to retake that control of that room. The way he's doing it is through his sense of certainty, talking back about his area of expertise. So if he can go a little bit more technical, which kind of takes the control of the frame back, and then once he's back within that 30 seconds, then he can get back onto course of speaking generically so other people can understand as well. And I thought that was quite a good way of doing it. And there's actually an analogy I use, again, from working the nightclubs, where you've got very powerful people who come to this one particular nightclub, Tiger in London, that I worked at. We had very powerful, wealthy people who used to come there. And in the boardroom, there was one guy I give an example of who's a hedge fund manager. And he was a lovely guy, but he was very, he was pretty socially awkward, but very, very good at what he did. There's a term for it, which I'm blanking on at the moment. But in his world, in the boardroom, he would control frame, absolutely control frame. But then as soon as he came to the nightclubs, he wouldn't be able to control the frame because it wasn't his environment. And the bartender effectively would say, listen, if you all want to get a drink, get in line. And everybody would get in line because the bartender had that sense of certainty in his environment that effectively was going to get everybody back in line there. So I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it was, let's see if we can sync back to your area of comfort. So at least you then have that certainty to be able to take control back of that presentation rather than letting somebody else run off with it, which was, we're going to see how it goes, because his presentation was phenomenal. The first one was quite challenging, but for him anyway. But the third one he gave was absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely believe that he can go on and do whatever he wants to do with the speaking. But so much of this is how do I get through those shorter term challenges, I guess. Does that make sense? Does that make any contextual sense of what I'm saying?
It does. It does. Having like circuit breakers or reset buttons, like if you get a bit lost or you're not too sure what's going on, having someone experienced like you to give you a couple of little tips like that where you could reset or where you could effectively break that control that they've kind of taken from you would be a massive help. I'd love to come and see one of these workshops that you run. I'll have to try and slide me in there one day, because I know from my own experience that just listening to you talk about how you've got strangers coming into the room and their first presentation, I know I would feel shocking. I would feel all over, even if I was talking about something that I'm an expert in, it would feel tough because you've got all these brand new people, you don't know about them. You'd have that fear going on. But if it's anything like my experience and a few things that I've done, You form close bonds with those people real quickly. The fear fades really quick, and you can get once you get over that and you realize that everyone in here is not going to laugh at you, you're actually not standing up there naked talking like it is in your dreams. You're not panicking that much.
Your nightmares, not your dreams, right? Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm still asleep, bud. Someone's dream. And you've got, you can relax, and you can let your body relax. You can get your brain working and your area expertise. All of a sudden, there's all this common, not common knowledge, or this expert knowledge inside you that starts to flow. So watching that'd be pretty bloody awesome, I reckon. Watching the breakthroughs.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see it again. You know, I love, again, sales training, because people, you can actually see the numerical return on there. But seeing people in such a short amount of time have such a breakthrough, it's phenomenal. You know, we set it up well and remove a lot of those limiting beliefs. You know, I'm telling you this now because I genuinely believe that a lot of the work we do to help people get breakthroughs is just weakening limiting beliefs. Yes. Strategies, techniques, and understandings is great. Yep. But if I have to be able to, with each person, I have to be able to remove or reduce those limiting beliefs that they hold about themselves, yep. Which is it's quite a phenomenal thing to observe. It really is. But once we can identify those limiting beliefs that we hold, because I think we hold them consciously and subconsciously, and we can start to weaken them with reframes or stories or different contexts, aha moments, those types of things, then we get to a good place there. It's beautiful to see. It really is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And public speaking or presenting is, once you start, it's like any other skill. Once you decide you want to learn it and you want to get better at it, there are, like you always say, there's strategies, techniques, understandings that can be taught, and you can lay them out, and it just makes everything so much easier. If you're trying to do it off your own back, it's hard work. But if you've got someone experienced in there, teaching you some, like pre-framing, teaching you where to put the pauses in your language and how to structure things, it changes the game. It really does.
And the ability to speak publicly, I think, is one of the greatest skills you can have in business. I really believe that. That and being able to sell. When I say sell, let's say sell or influence and persuasion in the same category there. Yeah, beautiful.
The thing I like most about learning to public speak is that it really teaches you to relax and stay in control.
Yes.
Which keeps you, and you must put yourself in a good frame of mind. You've got to get out of that fight or flight mentality.
Yeah.
And once you're out of that and you're relaxed, it doesn't matter what question they ask you.
Absolutely.
It's irrelevant. You can't get knocked off. The better you get at it, the more relaxed you are, the harder it is for them to knock you off your game.
And you know what I think dictates how relaxed you are or the frame of mind you're in? One thing, your focus.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
If you're focusing on people who are giving you good energy in the room, then you're going to stay in a more positive state. Again, though, the human brain noticing negatives way before positives.
Oh yeah,
it's a challenging situation, man. It really is.
Absolutely.
But controlling that focus, what goes in your eyes and your ears, what your thought process is, very, very powerful, empowering for people. Which is where we want.
Yes. Well, while we're on the topic, this leads us into the last little bit we want to talk about. And this came from your presenting workshop as well. So talk to us about this one, because this is right up what we've been talking now. So but let's blend it in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the final thing we're going to touch on, folks, is one of the observations I have is with a 2-day workshop like that, 2-day presenting workshop, people come in and I go around the rooms always, and I ask each person what they specifically want to take away from the training. Because my goal is not just to go through the PowerPoints and stuff like that, a death by PowerPoint, a tick and flick scenario. I actually want to personalize the training to each person as an individual, because people have different challenges, different experiences. They're in different roles, different stakeholders, different industries, all of these things. And when I go around the table, and it was very much highlighted in this session, was when I went through it and I asked everybody, I got a feeling that the level of speaking ability was very, very low. And by that, I mean, there was a lot of people who were terrified of speaking. There was a lot of people who had English as a second, third, or fourth language. There was a lot of these issues, and I effectively thought that the presentations were going to be absolutely shocking. Like, literally, I can't even get the words out of my mouth. Here was the thing, though. The way we set it up and the way we structured it So bearing in mind, I gave them a brand new structure which allows people to influence and persuade. And the first presentation they gave was on something that they were passionate about. So a new thing which I gave them, which was the structure, and then something old that they're familiar with, which is what they're passionate about. And they gave presentations. Here was the thing: every single person presented the first time, second time, and third time without notes. Every single day they said, "Can we bring up notes?" And my response was, "You can, but having spoken with every single one of you, I believe you can present without notes. All we've got to do is be able to keep you in that right frame, the right frame of mind." And every single one of them came up and presented without notes from the first to the last presentation. And the improvements were phenomenal because everybody gets personalized feedback there. But it led me to conclude at the end of the first round of presentations. I said, folks, listen, I was very concerned that the level of presenting was not going to be good here. It was going to be like you're going to battle to get words out and you're going to be falling all over yourself and everything like that. Because that's what I picked up from how negatively we're talking about their communication skills, about their presenting skills. And it leads me to believe that we think we speak a whole lot worse than what we really do. We present a whole lot worse than what we really do. And I think that a lot of the time is the reason for it is that it is a significant emotional experience, and it can be confronting and it can be exposing. And you're up there, you're speaking, you're a target, or you feel like you're a target. You've got senior level management whose opinions of you matter to you. And it can be a very overwhelming aspect. But effectively, when we are able to put some things in place there, they start speaking at a much higher level. And this is where I think we get a lot of these great breakthroughs, which is when we have people who have no reason to do anything but give them the truth, or give them the truth feedback rather than just blow smoke at them, is they start to realize that they speak a whole lot better than what they thought they did. And the analogy that I give them, which is how they feel when they're presenting versus how they're perceived, is I need them thinking about themselves as using the duck syndrome. And the duck syndrome, if anybody who's not familiar with it, is a duck that's swimming along the water. It's like a cross section of the duck. Below the water, the legs are going crazy. But above the water, that body is chilled. That duck is very relaxed and very chilled. And that is exactly how you should be when you go out to present. Now, those emotions that you can feel, you can call them fear or you can call them excitement. The physiological reactions are very, very similar, but how you label them can be empowering or disempowering. But I think very often people feel that how they feel internally is being expressed being picked up by people who are observing them. And sometimes it absolutely can. But also then realizing that their presentation, how it comes across, is a lot better than how they feel. And being able to disassociate the two of those and do this, you're having a lot more people who are having some great breakthroughs there as well. And they start to believe it. And then they start seeing speaking engagements as opportunities rather than obligations, which is beautiful. It's like seeing a chain coming off somebody, a weight coming off somebody. I think I can really do this, which is great. It's awesome.
Man, sounds cool. Some of the big breakthroughs for me was telling myself that I was excited to do it before I walked up there.
Yeah.
Excited as opposed to nervous. And like you said, this pretty much the exact same bodily reactions, but the brain believes you're excited. Oh, we're excited? Okay, let's go. Yeah. Let's do that. And being in that environment would be, I think you'd make good breakthroughs there because you've got everyone's in the same boat. More or less. Hats off to the people who are learning to present and English isn't their first language.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been my first language for 50 years. Still can't get it right. So hats off to you people. You are awesome. Be beyond what I could accomplish. But those, like I said before, little strategies, techniques, understandings around presenting, around staying in a good frame of mind, staying calm, staying excited, as opposed to being in a fight or flight where you're all stressed and you can't think and the world closes in. Yeah, but in that group that all know they're in the same boat, so they all know what it's like standing up there. They'll all see the positives in each other, and it'd be a really good, fast learning environment. That's really good. Good, close bonds made quickly too, I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. When people go through challenges at university together, it does bind them. But I'll tell you this, Cuz, as well, is if you want to supercharge that approach that you use, which is telling yourself that you're excited, if you really want to supercharge it, ask yourself to write down 3 reasons why you're excited. Otherwise, because if you start thinking in context there and writing that out, then you start giving yourself a lot more reason to believe it. Otherwise, we can very often just feel like we're blowing smoke at ourselves.
I tell you what, I just thought of another reason why people would think that they are a lot worse at public speaking or presenting than they really are. It reminds me back when I first started at Toastmasters and you had to do your first speech. I can't remember what it was called, but one of the tips they gave us was to video yourself or record yourself and listen back or watch yourself.
Yeah.
And it was horrible.
Yes.
It still is. Like watching your own worst critic.
Yeah.
And you'll mumble a word, you'll fumble a word, and you'll go, oh, what am I doing? Look at what I've done. Other people don't notice.
Absolutely. 100%.
And if they do notice, they don't react to it because they know what it's like.
Yeah.
So maybe a lot of it is because it's hard to even talk to yourself in the mirror some days. If you're that nervous about public speaking, so you wind yourself into a state of mind where you've already decided you're not.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, maybe it's simple reasons like that. And it's little things like that that can, once you get over those, it changes the world. It changes everything.
Yeah, 100%. Start thinking, if I can get this right, what else can I get right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why was this so hard for me?
Absolutely.
And especially once you go to jiu-jitsu and learn that only a couple of people can actually choke you out, the chances of them being in that room at that time are slim. So you should be pretty good.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah.
Maybe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe. But, and one of the other big breakthroughs I made was that I realized I could use stories a lot. Relatable stories. I've been around the construction industry for a while now, and there's always something in a conversation that will trigger a memory of something that happened or something similar. So when you're talking on topics, another good tip is to try and turn it into stories and use them as timelines. Helps with not having to have notes. You can just remember 2 or 3 stories, and bang, 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 away you go, and you'll flow through it like that. So lots more tips, and not from me. Don't take tips from me. And Paulie's the man when it comes to it.
Come on. There you go. Fantastic. What you got on this week?
This week is a big one for us. We're back into it again. As always, the weather's turned, so it's just great fun playing with steel when it's cold.
Yeah.
But busy as always. I got stuff cooking on the side as well, which is keeping me very busy and keeping me curious and interested, opening new doors. So, fair bit going on. So it'll be another big week. And Pilates. I've started Pilates too.
Okay, fantastic. Beautiful. How's that going?
Oh, it's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's very lucky that we found a lovely local teacher. She's awesome. And she's got 2 beds in her bedroom, 2 reformer beds.
Yeah.
And it's lucky because I'd be getting laughed at by 30 or 40 people instead of just my lovely wife who goes with me, because it's good fun, but I'm lacking, I tell you. I'm lacking.
A load of family entertainment, eh?
I am the entertainment of this family, yes. Yourself, Paulie, what's your week looking like?
Yeah, we got a Lunch and Learn webinar tomorrow, which would have been about how we're building high-performing, self-motivated sales teams, which is going to be awesome. Got a good number of people who've registered for that. So we're gonna shine some light on a very different way of getting those great outcomes for sales teams, because it's not just about teaching strategies and stuff like that. We're actually looking to create behavioral change rather than just information exchange. Get them doing different things, which is a lot easier said than done, but we're getting some traction with it, so it's great. Good.
We're going to run those once a month.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
So we'll be looking to run those Lunch and Learns if they're on a particular area or even just trending skill sets that we're seeing happening in the marketplace, and how to make the most out of those. So we'll be onto that. More regular things like that happening. Absolutely.
Excellent. Paulie, great topics. Thank you again for your time.
Beautiful. You too, guys.
Have a big week. Have a good week, everyone out there. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, folks. All the best. Cheers.